16. The primary elements are of different qualities, and how can they produce this world of matter? Each of the elements has its own seat. What are regarded as secondary elements are not made by them. 717. Fire burns matter, the nature of water is to wet, the wind scatters matter. How can matter be produced by the elements when they are of such contradicting natures? 718. The Rupa Skandha and the Vijnana. There are these 2 skandhas and not 5. They are different names for the skandhas. Of this I have talked in 100 ways. 719. By the separation of mind from what belongs to it, the present world evolves. Various forms of matter are inseparably conjoined with one another. Matter is mind-made, and is not element-made. 720. Blue, etc., are to be referred to white, and white to blue. Cause and effect being produced in the same mutual way, both being and non-being are emptiness. 721. Effect and affecting and affected, cold and heat, qualified and qualifying. Such like and all other things are not to be explained away by theories. 722. The Chitta, Manas and the 6 Vijnanas are by nature united and removed from oneness and otherness. They are evolved from the alaya. 1 after Tianj. 723. The Samkhya and the Vaishshika followers. The naked philosophers, and the advocates of Isvara, the Creator, are addicted to the dualism of being and non-being, and do not know what solitary reality is. 1. 724. Varieties of forms and figures are not produced by the primary elements, but the philosophers declare them to originate from the elements primary and secondary. 725. As the philosophers imagine causes other than the unborn, they do not understand, and because of stupidity they uphold the dualism of being and non-being. 726. There is a truth characterized by purity. It is united with the Chitta, but disunited with the Manas, etc. It abides with knowledge. 727. If karma is form, it will be the cause of the skandhas and the objective world. Beings without attachment will not be abiding even in the world of formlessness. 728. That egolessness is the true doctrine follows from the non-existence of beings. The advocate of non-ego is a destroyer, too, causing even the cessation of the Vijnana. 729. There are 4 abodes of it. How does it arise from the non-existence of form? As there is nothing existent innerly or outwardly, no Vijnanas arise. 730. The theorizers wish to see the skandhas in the middle existence. Likewise, they wish, a being born in the world of formlessness is of no form. What else is there? 731. If one says that emancipation is attained without exerting oneself, as there are no beings, no Vijnanas, this is no doubt a philosopher's theory. The theorizers do not understand. 732. If form is to be found in the world of formlessness, it is not visible. Its non-existence contradicts the truth. There is neither a vehicle nor a driver. 733. The Vijnana, born of habit energy, is united with the senses. There are 8 kinds of it. They do not grasp one field all at once. 1. 734. When form is not evolved, the senses are not the senses. Therefore, the Blessed One declares that the senses, etc., are characterized with momentariness. 735. How without determining form can the Vijnana take its rise? How without the rising of knowledge can transmigration take place? 736. To pass away instantly after birth. This is not the teaching of the Buddhas. Nor is there the uninterruptedness of all things. As discrimination moves about, one is born in the various paths. 737. The senses and their objective worlds are meant for the stupid but not for the wise. The ignorant grasp after names, the wise comprehend the meaning. 738. The sixth Vijnana is not to be understood as non-attachment, or as attachment. The wise who are devoid of the fault of being are not committed to a definite theory. 739. Those theorizers who are without knowledge are frightened at eternalism and nihilism. The ignorant are unable to distinguish between the samskrita, the asamskrita, and the ego soul. 740. Some imagine the ego soul to be one with the chitta, others to be different from the manas, etc. Attachment too exists in oneness as well as in otherness. 3. 741. If attachment is determined and mind and what belongs to it are designated, how is it that on account of the attachment there is the determination by oneness? 742. By reason of attachment, attainment, karma, birth, effect, etc. They are brought to the goal like fire. There is resemblance and non-resemblance in the principle. 1. 743. As when fire burns, the burned and the burning are simultaneously there, so is attachment to an ego soul. What is it that is not seized by the theorizers? 744. Whether there is birth or no birth, the mind shines forth all the time. What illustrations will the theorizers produce to prove their notion of an ego soul? 745. Those theorizers who are destitute of the principle are lost in the forest of Vijnanas. Seeking to establish the theory of an ego soul, they wander about here and there. 746. The ego characterized with purity is the state of self-realization. This is the Tathagata's womb, which does not belong to the realm of the theorizers. 747. When one thus knows what are the characteristics of attached and attaching by the analysis of the skandhas, there rises the knowledge of the principle. 748. The alaya where the gava is stationed is declared by the philosophers to be the seat of thought in union with the ego. But this is not the doctrine approved by the Buddhas. 749. By distinctly understanding it, i.e., the doctrine, there is emancipation and insight into the truth, and purification from the passions which are abandoned by means of contemplation and insight. 750. The mind primarily pure is the Tathagata's gava, which is good but is attached to as an ego soul by sentient beings. It is free from limitation and non-limitation. 751. As the beautiful color of gold and gold among pebbles become visible by purification, so is the alaya among the skandhas of a being. 752. The Buddha is neither a soul nor the skandhas, he is knowledge free from evil outflows. Clearly perceiving him to be eternally serene, I take my refuge in him. 753. The mind, primarily pure, is with the secondary passions, with the manas, etc. and in union with the ego soul. This is what is taught by the best of speakers. 754. The mind is primarily pure, but the manas, etc. are other than that. Varieties of karma are accumulated by them, and thus there are defilements giving rise to dualism. 755. The ego primarily pure has been defiled on account of the external passions since the beginningless past, and what has been added from outside is like a soiled garment to be washed off. 756. As when a garment is cleansed of its dirt, or when gold is removed from its impurities, they are not destroyed but remain as they are. So is the ego freed from its defilements. 757. Imagining that a melodious sound obtains in a lute, a conch shell, or in a kettle drum, the unintelligent thus seek something of an ego soul within the skandhas. 758. As one tries to find precious stones in the treasure house, or in water, or underneath the ground, where they are invisible, so do they seek a soul in the skandhas. 759. As the unintelligent cannot take hold of a mind and what belongs to it as a group, and their functions which are connected with the skandhas, so they cannot find an ego soul in the skandhas. 760. As the womb is not visible to the woman herself who has it, so the ego soul is not visible within the skandhas to those who have no wisdom. 761. Like the essence of the medicinal herb, or like fire in the kindling, those who have no wisdom do not see the ego soul within the skandhas. 762. Trying to find permanency and emptiness in all things, the unenlightened cannot see them. So with the ego soul within the skandhas. 763. When there is no true ego soul, there are no stages, no self-mastery, no psychic faculties, no highest anointing, no excellent samadhis. 764. If a destroyer should come around and say, "If there is an ego, show it to me," a sage would declare, "Show me your own discrimination." 1. 765. Those who hold the theory of non-ego are injurers of the Buddhist doctrines. They are given up to the dualistic views of being and non-being. They are to be ejected by the convocation of the bhikshus and are never to be spoken to. 1. 766. The doctrine of an ego soul shines brilliantly like the rising of the world-end fire, wiping away the faults of the philosophers, burning up the forest of egolessness. 767. Molasses, sugarcane, sugar, and honey. Sour milk, sesame oil, and ghee. Each has its own taste. But one who has not tasted it will not know what it is. 768. Trying to seek in 5 ways for an ego soul in the accumulation of the skandhas, the unintelligent fail to see it, but the wise seeing it are liberated. 769. By means of illustrations furnished by the sciences, etc. The mind is not accurately determined. As to the meaning contained in it, how can one accurately determine it? 770. Things are differentiated but the mind is one. This is not perceived. The theorizers imagine it to be causeless and not functioning, which is a mistake. 771. When the yogin reflects upon the mind, he does not see the mind in the mind. An insight comes forth from the perceived I. The world. Whence is the rising of this perceived world? 772. I belong to the Katyayana family, descending from the Suddhavasa. I teach the Dharma in order to lead sentient beings to the city of Nirvana. 773. This is the course of the past. I and those Tathagatas have generally disclosed the meaning of Nirvana in 3000s of the Sutras. 774. Not in the world of desire nor in the world of no form is Buddhahood attained. But at the Akanishtha in the world of form one is awakened to Buddhahood by getting rid of greed. 775. The objective world is not the cause of bondage. The cause is bound up in the objective world. The passions are destroyed by knowledge, which is a sharp sword gained by discipline. 776. How is non-ego possible? How are things like Maya, etc.? How about being and non-being? If suchness reveals itself to the ignorant, how is non-ego non-existent? 1. 777. Because of things done and of things not done, the cause is not the producer. All is unborn, and this is not clearly recognized by the ignorant. 778. The creating agencies are unborn. Both the created and the conditions of causality are unborn. Why is imagination carried on as regards creating agencies? 779. The theorizers explain a cause to consist in the simultaneity of antecedent and consequent. The birth of all things is told by means of a light, a jar, a disciple, etc. 780. The Buddhas are not Samskrita made, but are endowed with the marks of excellence. They belong to the nature of a Chakravartin. The Buddhas are not so named because of these marks. 781. What characterizes the Buddhas is knowledge. It is devoid of the defects of intellection. It is an insight attained by self-realization. It is removed from all defects. 782. The religious life is not found in those especially, who are deaf, blind, one-eyed, dumb, aged, young, nor in those who are given up to the feeling of enmity. 783. The world ruler is endowed with the celestial marks and the secondary characteristics though not manifested. They become, however, manifested in some of the homeless monks and not in anybody else. So it is declared. 784. After the passing of the leader of the Sakyas, these will follow me: Vyasa, Kanada, Rishabha, Kapila, and others. 785. Then 100 years after my passing, Vyasa's Bharata will appear, the Pandavas, the Kauravas, Rama, and then the Maurya. 786. The Maurya, the Nanda, the Gupta, and then the Imleka who are bad kings. After the Imleka will rage a warfare, and then the age of vice. And after this age of vice, the good Dharma will no more prevail in the world. 787. After passing through these ages the world will be thrown into confusion like a wheel. Fire and the sun being united, the world of desire will be consumed. 788. The heavens will again be restituted and therein the world will take its rise, together with its four castes, kings, rishis, and the Dharma. 789. The Vedas, worship, and charity will again prevail with the revival of the Dharma. By narratives, histories, prose compositions, commentaries, annotations, thus I have heard, etc. The world will again fall into confusion. 790. Preparing properly colored cloth. Have it further cleaned. Have the cloth dyed with bluish mud and cow dung, making it nondescript in color, so that the body may be covered with robes in every way different from the appearance of the philosophers. 791. Let the yogin preach the doctrine, which is the badge of the Buddhas. Let him drink water filtered through a cloth and carry the hip string. In due time let him go about begging and keep away from things vile. 792. He will be born in a heaven filled with light, and the other two will appear among mankind. Decorated with precious stones he will be born as a god and a world lord. 793. In the abode of light he enjoys the four worlds by means of the teaching based on the Dharma. But after a long reign over the worlds he will retrograde on account of desire. 794. Thus there are the Golden Age, the Age of Triads, the Age of Two, and the Age of Vice. The Lion of the Sakyas will appear in the Age of Vice, I and others in the Golden Age. 795. Siddhartha of the Sakya family, Vishnu, Vyasa, Mahesvara. Such other philosophers will appear after my passing. 796. There will be the teaching of the Lion of the Sakyas told in the Thus I Have Heards, and that of Vyasa in the narratives, and the past events. 797. Vishnu and Mahesvara will teach about the creation of the world. Things like this will take place after my passing. 798. My mother is Vasumati, my father is the wise Prajapati. I belong to the Katyayana family, and my name is Viraja the victor. 799. I was born in Kampa, and as my father and grandfather, being descendants of the lunar race, my family name is the Moon Protected.